I'm very excited to be today with Nima Sarshar, the CTO of ThreedyAi, that is one of the most interesting startups in AI and AR. So, hello, Nima.
Hello, hello.
How
Nice
is
to finally be talking to you.
how is it going?
It's going pretty well. I was telling you, it's finally rained here. Just a nice 50 degrees outside. I took the dog out. So, except, other than that, we may go to a shutdown. Everything is good.
Apart from this.
Except from that, everything is good.
So, who are you? Because I'm following you since a while, but not everyone is doing that. So, who are you? What you're doing in your daily life?
Yeah, yeah. No, so maybe I'll tell you where we ended up here, and then I'll go a little bit back in my life story. But so the company 3DAI used to be called something else, AR While, but it's been around about a year and a half. So the story of it is, a few years back, I was like that last gig I had, I was at Apple, and it was sort of around the time that AR Kit was coming out, and but I was part of the Apple News, was doing machine learning for new text understanding, et cetera. But I kind of was hearing the news coming out for AR Kit, and then I had another startup called Haley about 10 years back that did visual search. Didn't really succeed much, but I always knew I would want to come back to something visual computing of some sort. I just didn't know what. And like the deep learning was picking up and all of that, and I realized that there's a massive opportunity here. So the AR kit in its own is pretty impressive. Like the fact that you could do spatial understanding with that accuracy just with a camera and some sensors in the phone. It was pretty impressive. So it kind of made it clear that this thing has a leg. It could really be useful, especially in retail, because it's sort of a no-brainer. You want to buy a sofa, don't you want to see it inside your home? I mean, that sounded like a no-brainer application. There was a lot beyond, nothing wrong with gaming, but beyond gaming, that sounded like something that could have a lot of business value. So I started talking with everybody that was around me here. I mean, there's a lot of nice companies, House, there's Walmart, there's a lot of them here. So I started talking with people after AR Kit came out that, how they felt about that. Obviously, everybody knew, and then everybody was excited. But then when you really dug deep, it became clear that really 3D content problem is going to be the issue. And even after 3 years now, it's still, to me, is the bottleneck for why AR has not quite taken off just yet. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. But so at that point, I started kind of looking into how people do make 3D models, and it was clear that the common mode was you give photos to an artist, and an artist sits down in Maya or Blender, and then they end up remaking this thing, okay, an artist rendition of an actual product to the best they can. And that seemed and is expensive, and it took a while and hard to scale. I figured if we can't fully automate this, but at least with machine learning, we could expedite that or accelerate that. And that's why I left and then put a team together, raised a little money for a pre-seed with some really good names there. And the team is really brilliant team. I mean, at some point I was the only one without a Stanford PhD, so I was the slacker. But really good people. I was from Apple. There was others from Facebook, etc. So we officially now launched after about a year and a bit our platform this August, and the idea is that we want to take the burden of creating 3D models in the furniture and home goods industry at this point. And I'll talk about why that is. But just take it off from the hands of the retailers. You just give us your 2D product photos, and then we've built a lot of capabilities to speed up the creation of 3D models. Now, it's not 100% automated in all categories, but it is for a typical big box store. that we work with, about 80%, 75% of their stuff, SKUs, we do make fully automatically. About 15% of them, we touch it up. So we also have a little small artist network and then head of 3D in-house that helps us with that. About 10% of it is basically fully manual still. And we have a small network of freelancers that does that for us. So all in all, we took something that, was a lot of back and forth. Our pipeline right now can make up to 5,000 models a week. So it's really churning models out real quick. So I'll stop here for a sec. Yeah.
Wow. So I really feel what you're saying, because I remember when I work in AR and VR. I help companies also build VR solutions, and lots of time I've heard something like, I want to create an AR marketplace, whatever. My first answer is, how much money do you have for the 3D models? Because it's a very common problem. And so that's why we are here also, because I remember reading this about you, that you can create these automatic models. And now you say that you can create up to 5,000 models every week. Is impressive number that no 3D artist can create, even working night and day. But how does it work? Because so what do you need to get this model? How is it possible?
So a lot of it is, so we have there's 3-4 different sort of algorithms kind of and processes sort of mesh together. It's just like any other, and this is basically, by the way, how was our realization after about 6 months of, because we had no idea how to solve this problem. when we headed out, and like we even raised money and we got together, it was like, okay, now what do we do? So because for a little while it was sort of I don't know how much you know about all these generative deep learning kind of approaches to actually creating 3D surfaces from 2D photos. So the gist of those approaches, there's a lot of that in academia. So the gist of it is that you're given a 2D profile or multiple 2D profiles of some 3D object that you want to recreate, right? And then you start by basically shaping the surface and rendering it from different sides. And there are all these beautiful differential renderers that would basically render it from a given camera angle, and then you look at what the rendering is from that 3D shape that you're trying to mold, and then you compare it with those profile photos that you have, right? And then you have some metric of some sort, right? And then you try to minimize that. So we started with that. There's a lot of that. I think TensorFlow has a differential renderer now that's pretty good. And at that point, there were others that we adopted. But then quickly, I realized that you're never going to get industry quality models doing this. You're just never going to happen. But it also dawned on me that this is not how humans make stuff. Like if you want to make a chair, you don't start with like a piece of timber and cut it into a chair. That's not how you do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you make it part by part and you put it together. That's what modern manufacturing is. So really, there's a whole pipeline of ours that sort of is analogous to a virtual factory, where we make things part by part, snap them together. There's a still kind of differentiable optimizations at some point, but sometimes it fails, and that's when artists would touch it up, etc. So that really is the big sort of secret sauce back there. And about a year into this, we have a massive library of parts, and these parts are not every part. They've been made manually, but they are also deformable and differentiable. And there's like 10,000 of them that we have by this point. So we could pretty much make anything by putting these together. Now, how do we pick those parts? How we put it together? That's sort of what
it's your secret, I guess. But without entering into your secrets, so basically, just explain it at a very high level, also to people not very expert with AI and machine learning. So basically, you have this big array of possible parts, and the AI try to mix them together. And when it tries, and we find some match, it is quite
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
It understands that the model has that shape,
Yep.
more or less then adjusts it maybe with some metrics.
Yeah, very
Um,
nice. Yeah.
and then it adds the texture maybe from the picture. I don't know. Is it
Exactly.
something
So
like
that
that?
that is the other half of it. So if you look at how an artist, what it takes for an artist to make a good quality 3D model, I'd say about half of it, on average, is for them to create the geometry, and then the other half is really to texture and apply the material. So there's something philosophically interesting here, because there's some amazing products, like you know about Substance Painter, I guess, that
Yes.
it could be bought, right? So that's sort of the de facto material and texture material generation for PBR. It's pretty amazing. All artists use that, right? But the thing that Substance Painter does amazingly is that, let's say I want to make a wood material, or a leather material, right? Or I have some, I want like a patterned cotton fabric. You could make that procedurally with infinite quality, right? But it's not that particular pattern that you're looking at. So nobody has ever had to, I'm not saying never, but it hasn't been the case where you wanted to reverse engineer a material and pattern that actually existed. It was always about, can you make a leather material that is very high quality? And that's what Substance Painter had solved. But what they don't have, or they don't have it as well as the other side of it, is if I want just that pattern, it's actually sort of almost an NP-hard problem to reverse engineer that, right? You could change the knobs in your procedural texture, you get beautiful, high quality textures. But if I want that texture, to find the knobs back, it almost is a reverse problem that is probably hard to solve, right? And then basically, I would say a good half of the tools we've built in-house is trying to address that. From the photo, how do I estimate what the textures are? How do I replicate the patterns? Because the patterns are not always like a nice flat pattern facing you. You got to unwrap them, you got to replicate them, and all of that. So that's also sort of what the productivity tools we bring in, even when we do things fully manually. That idea of, and as you could guess, we also have a large library of textures we've collected and bought the rights to. So that also helps.
Yeah, so let me understand this a bit better, the texture part. So always try to give an overview, because it's I guess all the secret. I don't know if you even try to patent this, because it seems very cool. So what, once you have the photo, maybe a single photo of a sofa or a leather sofa, you say that you are trying or not trying to replicate that exact letter, or what do you do in overview of the algorithm?
So again, even that has a few different approaches. There's one that yeah, all of these are patent pending. So, but so,
Just
I mean,
very high overview.
yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying that yes, obviously we care about that. But so there is there's two ways, right? One is that I take the pixels from the photo itself and I try to flatten that, right?
Yeah,
And so that's one. And you could do that. It actually, some of the tools that we use to create the meshes are used here to know how to flatten something, because you need to have a contextual understanding of what this object is, right? Let's say you have a chair and the chair is tilted, right? So you kind of need to know what tilting means so that you apply the reverse of that perspective transform to
yeah,
flatten that. There's one group of that's sort of like that. There's another group that's actually procedural, but then you basically have a massive search tree where you want to find the parameters in your procedural space that would result in a pattern that is closest to that one, right? So essentially, it's like a decision tree, and then you have the opportunity to try many of those, because that's the machine. It takes whatever it takes. So you try a lot of those and you see which one actually generates. Again, there are different paths, and some of the manual intervention is at this point, I'm not going to say we're super good at knowing which path would work. So either you get a hint from an artist, or we do all of them and an artist picks the right one. So that's sort of some of the manual stuff that kicks in as well. But we collect data, and hopefully we'll get better at not having to do that.
Yeah, that's how machine learning works. You start, then you refine. It's normal, I guess. You're trying to do something really complicated, so don't be too harsh with yourself. It takes time because it's very.
I mean,
It's very, very difficult. So, this is what I didn't understand from the previous question. So you're still trying both approaches. Probably in the end you will stick with the one that works, or who knows? Maybe you will try to mix the two somehow. Who knows?
See, if I had a magic wand, you know what I would have done? I would have collected all the textures existing in the world, so I didn't have to make another one. There's this. So I have a co-founder who's really fond of searching, not generating a paradigm. You heard about that, I suppose, right? This is sort of what took us from trying to generate stuff to something where we actually pre-make stuff and we put them together, right? Yeah. It's sort of what has been our realization, and that is not sexy. It's blood and sweat and tear, to collect things and make things by hand. But those are your assets. That's why I'm not super worried about people really catching up to us. It's like these things that you build up, your assets, are hard to catch up to, right? Go and make 10,000 differentiable, parameterized parts that are relevant, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's not doable. It's just is not some PhD student's thesis that would all of a sudden kind of solve this problem, right?
No, of course no. But just to try to understand, so you're trying to do this thing. First question is if it works with all kind of elements, or at the moment with certain categories, like furniture, or I don't know, toys, but not with plants. So are there some categories at the moment, I guess?
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you don't anything that you manufacture part by part, probably with a CAD, is where we shine, right?
Okay.
Think of it that way, like things that are piece by piece. Where we have to fall on a bit more of a manual stuff is certain really soft-ish things. Even like a sofa, I know it's manufactured, but there's certain sofas we just don't know how to put together, or the parts are novel. But to your point, a potted plant. Now for that, we have some other algorithms. I'm going to show you a video a little bit later, but they're algorithms that do make individual pieces, and they're actually pretty darn good. So a lot of these smallish things, like a small statue or something that's sort of novel, but it's been molded, we're also able to reproduce those with machine learning pretty darn good. I'll show you an example, for instance, with a necklace that you could make out of just a single photo a bit later.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to see that. If you had to give a percentage at the moment of things that after the process you are satisfied, so if I give you 100 photos of furniture with very, very little human intervention, how many of them will come out?
It's 75%.
Ah, not bad.
Yeah, 75%. And I would say another 10 to 15 needs some human intervention, and then the rest is fully manual. But I tell you, like the fully manual, we're chipping away, but that is always going to be the bottleneck, which is sort of the story of human technology, right? And probably the story of why generally AI as a business has struggled a little bit, because that you can't chip away to zero, right? So we chip away at it, but I'll tell you that's going to be the bottleneck, as small as it is.
Butter is there. But anyway, the things that you have to manually produce, you can feed it to the AI engine again, maybe.
Exactly, and we I mean, that's what our business is. We amortize the cost. Let's say if it takes $100 for people to on average to make. I mean, if you go out, I mean, the absolute smallest kind of thing. If you have your own artist pool, let's say in Philippines, the absolute minimum is $60 to $75 per model, right? I mean, if you kind of hire an agency in between, you probably have to pay about 100, 125. So we give, because that amortization, our model's upfront cost is $5, sometimes up to $15, depending on your the distribution of your categories, right? I mean, if you have a lot more stuff that we have to do manually, it kind of shifts more toward the 15, but that's why, like, I mean,
it's an order of magnitude less. In any case,
it literally is an order of magnitude less. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. This is how really I discover you about this 3D models magic. But now I've gone to your website and I've discovered that you actually now do something more. You also advertise yourself as an e-commerce company, so trying to push the future of e-commerce. You talk about contextual analysis of environment. So there is a lot more. And can you talk me about it?
And attention, that's pretty cool. No, so yeah, I mean, so here's what the evolution was, because we figured all these kind of, call it immersive. I still don't know. Maybe you help me come up with a good phrase for what to call this industry. But this idea of being this immersive 3D visualization sort of industry. So to power that, you really need 3D content. So content even here, right?
Yes.
And so once we started from that, because basically anybody who wanted help from us said, can you give us 3D models? And so we start from that. But at some point you're starting to see, okay, now I'm basically amassing this content catalog, and I just don't want to, as a business, give it away, right? Because it's one thing that I make a model for you and I charge you, others charge you $70, I charge you $15. So that's some business. But really, I figured is that these models are actually creating value for whoever that's using them, right? How do we get to, as a business, how do we get to that lifetime value of the product that they're selling? And how do we do that? And this sort of came out when we were trying to raise money last year. And it kind of becomes clear that just saying that, because, let's say I have all the models in the world. That's what a smart VCs would ask you, right? Let's say you have all the 3D models, right?
Yeah.
Smart tick, right? Then what, right? Then what is it that, like, how do you still have it? This is pre-COVID. Right now, they don't even ask that because it's very clear that this is a thing. But this like a year back, so the question was, let's say you have made all these 3D models. How do you keep making money out of this catalog of yours? And the answer to that was, when you kind of think about it well, and I got help from others, investors and other people, it's really, you have to also own the experiences that you create out of these 3D models, right? So you have the content. Instead of giving that content away, you could give it away, I mean, for the right price. But what you really want to do is to actually create experiences that are unique. Now, when you look at AR and 3D viewing, those are not experiences we as a company create. That's Apple's AR Kit or Google's AR Core, right? How do I convince you as a business to keep paying me for these models that I've made for you, right? Now, but by the way, that's what I would say 99% of our competitors do. They have a 3D viewer and an AR tag, right?
Yes.
And sometimes I read, sometimes I read their sort of tagline, like, all you need is a 3D model to start. It's like, yeah, I mean, if I have the 3D model, then I'll put the tag there, right? But then it's a bit more than that, because we have a platform that manages the files, makes sure the file formats are correct, we serve it and all that. But that's all good, well and good. But really, it's not something unique that, for one, makes you stand out. And it's also, I don't think, is pretty convincing. When you look at some of the bigger players like Target and Wayfair and others, they have pretty sophisticated 3D model management stuff, clearly, because they're serving these 3D models on their site already. So they don't need me, they just need the models, right? So what can I bring in that is unique and makes you want to be part of my platform? Yes, you don't have to worry about the 3D models and they're serving, because there's a lot of products churn and we have to make new ones and all the options. Those are all beautiful, right? But we realize that we do need to create experiences that are unique. And then as you kind of look into what the shopping patterns of people are, it became actually pretty clear that AR as a tool is pretty good for the bottom of the funnel. And this is that you and I were going back and forth in that article. So for the bottom of the funnel, in the sense that you have now narrowed it down to like 1 or 2 products, and you just want to see how, what's the yellow versus the blue chair, how do they look differently inside your room? But AR is really not good for the top of the funnel when you're doing your research, right? And as I kind of like to say, most shopping still happens in bed when you're kind of now doing your research and asking your loved ones, which one is which, versus you being inside, and downstairs in the living room holding your phone.
Scanning everything.
Exactly. But you do that once you kind of know you're about to buy, right? Really bottom of the funnel, you would do that, right? You want to see how it fits, and that's value there. But for the top of the funnel, like I have this room and I want to know, I'm sick of this, like, let's say, armchair, and I want to replace that. That AR is not going to solve that, right? It's not going to do any recommendations to you. It's not going to replace that chair and let you see how something in its place would look like. And that's precisely why we ended up building. Is the idea is that, I take instead of being in real time in an ephemeral AR session, or I would just take a photo of a 2D photo of my room, and then either on the phone or on a desktop, I could actually now place stuff, what we call 3D. I think the technical term is 3D compositing into 2D photos. So we let you do that fully automatically using our AI. We basically let you parse out the room, know exactly how the room looks like, where the surfaces are. I'll show you a little demo right now. But then you could actually place the stuff in your own time, offline, on your not offline, but on your desktop, in the bed, and then actually share that with people, get feedback, and end up buying what you want to buy. It also could give you recommendations. Can I actually share a screen, or?
Yeah, I think so. You should have in the bottom part of the screen, like.
Let me actually show you this.
I am really curious, because this was another thing that when I went to your website, I was like, okay, is this really possible? I want to see it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm going to actually show you. You see my screen?
Not yet. Let's wait a bit. Maybe it's coming.
Oh, sorry. I had to press this button.
Okay.
All right.
It's coming. Okay, I can see that.
Okay.
Style Joy.
So, Style Joy. Well, we're still debating what to call the product. We're releasing it with a partner actually later this year. But the idea is that you basically, instead of having AR session that's real time, you just upload your own a photo of your room. We have some template stuff I'll show you, but I did ask you to send me a photo, but later on I'll send me one from your living room. I'll decorate it for you. But the idea is that you submit just a regular photo of yourself. These are our template photos, so they're well lit, but they don't have to be. So we analyze where the walls are, where the floor is, etc. And then now you could actually place 3D models from our catalog right into the photo. So you could actually place it here and just move it around. It sticks to the ground. You could also put stuff on the wall and move it between the walls. And we don't have much of a notion of occlusion just yet, but working on that one. But
Okay.
you also know about the light. You see how underneath the window it reflects the light, and then
that's nice.
Right. So sometimes I show this to people, and not everybody knows what's real, what's not. Right. I mean, granted, this is a good quality photo. And then, unlike an AR session, you could take a snapshot, and you could actually share the snapshot. And this is like a living, breathing scene where people could give you further comments. You know, all the further sharing and virality is built into it. They could add other stuff, make suggestions. So this basically could become a co-design experiment as well. So just so you know that others are thinking along the same lines. Company I really admire is actually Target, who is shout out our client also. But so what they have here is sort of an attempt on doing that. They have had this in their let's see, but there really is not much of a spatial understanding here. However, they think that this is
it's very manual.
They let you kind of put it there. Clearly, they think it's useful, but the one that is even more interesting probably is, did you see this one from Amazon in August?
Yeah, also from my IKEA, it's this kind of shopping experiences. You can see something in your room, put it there, and buy it.
And save the session. So this is basically like the vanilla AR that comes with AR Kit, for instance.
Yes.
You can't save the session. But what Amazon has done, which I think is pretty interesting, is that they kind of rely on AR Kit to do the floor detection and spatial understanding of the space. But then instead of tearing that AR session down, they save it, right? So you could actually later on come back to it even when you're not in that room and put more stuff in the room and even share it, etc. So in that sense, it's very close in concept to what we're offering here, except that we do it with just a single photo rather than having to create an AR session and piggyback on top of that, because not everybody has that ability. And then, so there's another beauty with this. You could actually take this with you to a store, because then, you can't take your home with you to the store, but you could take the photo with to the store, to the extent that the stores will someday open and do want to get foot traffic in. In there, you could actually scan a barcode of, let's say you're sitting on a sofa, you scan the barcode, and then place that sofa inside the photo of your room. You could even change the swatches on that right there inside the store. And obviously, when you come back home, then you could do your real-time AR experience. So we're pretty excited about this. We'll see. We're launching this officially with one partner, and before the end of the year, and we'll see how that goes. But the idea is that, in a business-wise, this is something that's pretty unique, and then that way, that's another value add we bring in on top of the models that we create. And our business model is just, if you're part of the platform, you pay every time somebody from your side, a consumer of yours, essentially uses this experience.
Yeah, it's clear. And I have two questions about this. But the first is, are you able, or are you thinking about also removing the objects? As you say in your website, one of the common pain points is
where we're going. Yes, because that actually was one of the biggest triggers when we said, we need to do this. And we're already halfway through that, because that was the biggest shopping pattern we saw. Like, I want to remove this bed and put something in its place, right? And you've heard about this whole genre called in-painting in deep learning. Have you heard of in-painting?
No.
So in-painting is basically, the idea is that what if I kind of remove a rectangular piece here?
And
We have
use
learning
the
network.
background to paint it, basically.
Yes, exactly. To guess what was inside that piece that was held out. Now, the guys that do amazing work there are NVIDIA people. There's some like really, really kind of impressive stuff. So, so that essentially, that's sort of a variant of in painting, is what we're using to just be able to remove. Basically, you would segment this out and you in paint in its place, and then you put our model there.
But can I see something about this, or is still a work in progress?
Yeah. Do you want to? Sorry, you want to say something?
If you want to see something about this.
Oh yeah. So if you, sorry, how do we see? Let's say I want to remove this and see something in its place, right?
Yes. I guess
exactly.
the bed is very difficult to remove because it's a bit big.
Yeah, the bed is probably too big to remove. But let's say you wanted to remove this and put something in its place.
Yes.
Right. So there's a whole thing called, well, let's say somebody would just draw a rectangle here, right?
Okay.
The user. And then we in-paint in its place. So in-paint is basically pretty well understood deep learning genre, I would say, which means if I hold out a portion of an image, can the neural network fill in what's missing? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So once they do that, so let's say we don't have that completely done yet, but let's say we do that, then that means that as if we remove this item, then I would place something else, maybe another basket in its place. Let's say I'll put this basket in its place, right? So basically, right now it hasn't removed it, but within painting, you could actually remove that. So it would be basically the wall.
So, but what I was asking is, this feature is not available yet. So
not yet. No.
We're still working on it.
You're still working on it. I think that's going to be V2. The other thing we don't have is really any notion of occlusion, except for the walls. We know where the walls are. This thing hits the wall and stays here. But I don't have a notion of occlusion with the bed. So you could fly into the bed. You don't fly into the wall. It stops at the wall, which I still think is pretty neat. It flips between the walls, but it doesn't really know that there is a bed here.
Well, I mean, since you can create 3D objects for images, probably you'll be able also to reconstruct the bed in the future.
Exactly. So I didn't want to, I don't know how. Exactly, man. I think one advantage of having a large catalog of 3D objects is that you could actually learn to detect stuff from actual existing 3D models. Because then you could,
And also I was thinking about probably another thing, I don't know if you're thinking about it, I guess so from what I've read, also finding a way just that the system understands where to put these objects, maybe to give you pieces of advice on how to put furniture in your home.
Now you're talking. Yes. So one thing is totally missing from AR is any recommendation. And that was the other thing. Let's say I know I want to find a nightstand here, but where do I start, right? Wouldn't it be nice if because we exactly know the composition of the room, we know what the color the walls are, where the walls are, and what else is in the floor. And to your point, I kind of know that this is sort of a modern, minimalistic, warm bedroom, right? So I could offer things that at the very least have the same color palette. But not only that, they also fit correctly because we also have even without a depth map camera, we have a good understanding of what the sizes of the size scales in the room are, mostly from what the objects that are in the room, and also the ceiling and the rest of it. So we've machine learned that part of it, so we could at least suggest things to you to start your discovery.
Cool. And on your website, I also read about the AR++ experience.
This is you helped me, man, come up with a good name for this thing, right? See, you know what? AR, when you say AR, the moment you say AR, people go to, I don't know, what comes to your mind? Like, it's either you hold your phone and you do this, or, God forbid, is a goggle that you wear, and then people would think it's just like, but to me, I don't know what a good name for this is. It's more of a spatial understanding.
Yeah.
So this is what, I don't know. I mean, it needs to be a good term for this. I keep saying content in context, but that's way too nerdy. I don't know what I don't know what a good name is. It's really less about that sort of mixed. It is mixed reality, but clearly it's mixed reality, right? I put something virtual in this thing, and most people I show this to, at least they wouldn't know that this one is fake. But so it's blending in nicely, but it's not also AR. So what is the right way of calling this thing? I don't know. Maybe it's the job of you people.
I'm not the right person to ask. I hate all these AR, VR, XR, MR, too many names, I think. So
yeah. It kind of is, because this doesn't need any special device. It doesn't need it doesn't even need a smartphone. You just need a photo, right?
Yes.
And it lets you design this in a minute. So I don't know what to call it. But
it's a static AR. Let's go like this.
Static AR, or what's the static? The static feels inferior.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem, right? So, but this is basically the characteristics is that it is persistent, but it really is not an AR cloud, right? Because then the moment I say a persistent experience, then the minds go to AR cloud, which is good, but this is like sort of a AR cloud for the masses, really, right? You just take a photo. And the photo is in the cloud, so yes. And we do have a spatial understanding of what's inside that photo and how to deal with it, and we could composite things into it. But so it's persistent, it's shareable, like you could share this with other people, but it's actually not static, it's dynamic. I could add other stuff to it, and I could co-design this with other people. But I don't know.
I don't know either. It's hard.
This is why we kind of we call it quick design internally, but I don't know if that also does justice to it. But people, our clients, pretty excited about this. How a product has legs is when people start using it for other stuff than the one you kind of start initially thought about. I mean, people use this to stage rooms for, like realtors use this to stage rooms. These are all private beta users. People suggested to use this for bridal showers and baby showers. So there's all sorts of interesting use cases that people come up with. But at this point, it basically is officially a product. I'm going to switch to our demo store, but at this point, it's officially one of our offerings. So this is a demo store we have. If you were a client of ours in our platform, these are vanilla kind of default buttons. You could look at 3D models. We have right off the package AR. I mean, if you're on desktop, you could scan this with your camera, or if it's mobile, it takes you directly there. Now we have this third offering we call Viewing Room, which actually lets you place that object inside either a photo of your room
or a standard.
Right? right?
Well,
Or a stand. Yeah.
it's very nice idea, I think. I'm wondering if you're also working towards the end of the funnel. So I agree with you that this is very useful for the beginner. If I go in a store or
Mhm.
I'm in a bed and always doing this with a phone for AR
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
nuisance. But for the final part, okay, I think I want to buy that white stuff. Let me see in AR how it is in my room.
Yeah.
Do you also provide this? So from this photo, all these elements, you can see them in your room in AR?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, AR comes prepackaged. Any one of these you could scan. This is what I meant here. That if you, let's say that was the product, you could just scan it and goes to AR. Now, if I was on a mobile phone, any one of these could click through
But
and
also
and be
the
viewed.
wall room configuration, I mean, so
So that's a very good point. I mean, right now we basically rely on vanilla web AR from ARKit, and that only handles one at a time. But that's something to consider. I mean, especially if we start integrating into other people's app to be able to have multiple products. Is that what you mean, right? That I go downstairs and now all of these would be there. I mean, I could put them
yes.
one on, but I guess your point is start with that configuration. No, I don't have that yet. That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that once one has configured on a photo, I think that in
mm,
the end you want to final confirmation, try how it is, with your real room, thanks with the light effects of ARKit, you can go
yeah,
around it,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
I think that
So
that could
every
be
yeah,
a nice idea to add to your
right,
solution, just to complete
right.
the process.
Because see, this is how it works. Like all the in photos, everything you've put in the photo is
Mhm.
bookmarked here, and you could see at least each of them individually. You could see with WebAR in the room in real time. So there's some of that element, but to have them all together, um, you kind of can't. At least I don't know how to do it in WebAR, but definitely inside an app you could. But yes, this is a bookmark. You could also again share. People could add to your favorites. There's all that sort of niceties there as well. Where imagine you're designing with your sister or a designer, and they could co-design with you from
Uh,
afar.
okay, so I think that what you showed us is pretty cool, and the answer that people for sure would like to have an answer is all of this. So I mean the creation of the 3D models, this smart configurator, whatever how we want to call it, already available in the market. Yes, no, and for what price?
Yeah, this is pretty unique. I don't know of anyone else. I mean, again, look at, with all due respect, look at targets, right?
Yes.
So this is pretty unique, and that's sort of again coming back to our business model. That sort of is quite a differentiator. But to your point, yeah, I mean there actually are, I would say, I don't want to say many, but there's a lot of companies that would say, give us your 3D models, and we'll give you tags to for your AR and 3D, and even configurators in the sense of change the color. It's just that there's one is the price point that I would say at least $100, most of them. Uh, but there's another part to it. So price for the 3D and AR offering is really what it's at. We do 250 free model pilots. I mean, I challenge anyone to do that, because that's like a $25,000 value if you want to do it with others. That's how we sign up even the biggest of the clients, because let's put our money where our mouth is at. If people think they could create 3D models at scale and automatically, give them 250 models for free, right? And that's what we do. The other thing is, like, this is literally extremely plug and play, and it's sort of proven. So let's say you're a typical store, This is our demo store, but that basically works the same for other retailers and e-tailers. So let's say you're a store like this and you want to start offering 3D AR and now our viewing room experience. So essentially all you have to do is you drop our JavaScript tag onto this page. And then I'm going to now switch over to what our platform looks like. So in our platform, this is what we call a feed. A feed is generated from your product and mostly product photos. So we basically automatically collect all the images associated with your products. Their dimensions is the only physical thing, like real world measurements that we would read it off the page, basically parse out the page. Something about the type of the model, the product. So this is basically what we call a feed. A feed is automatically generated. You don't even have to give us your product feed. We just collect it. And once that's collected, we create what we call jobs out of it. Now, jobs are 3D modeling units. So each job is essentially would end up being a 3D model. So if there are multiple options for a product, there would be a separate job for each of them. So eventually a model is going to get created for, not this one. Eventually a model is going to get created. So that one was in progress. But let's say a model is going to get created for that product of yours. And so this bottom half is basically our admin view. I'm going to now switch to what the client sees. So this is what the client sees. They could leave comments for us here. Like if they don't like this, they would leave a comment that's attached to here. If they like it, etc. And the comment gets attached to the model. And if they don't like it, when they don't like it, it comes back to our artist, and then they would touch it up, or we do something, or we redo it. But eventually, the model gets approved by the client. The moment they approve the model, now I'm going to switch back to the store itself. The moment they approve the model, you're going to see these offerings here automatically. If I not approve the model, let me switch back there. If I don't approve the model, you're not going to see these. So it's absolutely plug and play. So you just drop a tag of JavaScript tag onto your site. I'm again going back to the portal, and then you just watch the products flow into your account. A lot of times the clients would start queuing themselves until they sort of start trusting us, and then they don't even have to do that. So to begin with, you could QA your own models and approve them, but then at some point our account manager just takes it over and approves it for them.
So basically what you're saying is that if I'm a store, to see all my products converted, I just need to put a JavaScript tag on my page?
Like literally one line of JavaScript.
So ideally, if I'm Amazon, I put that line on my store.
Yeah.
You start converting all the images in 3D models. They can approve and approve and see inside the row.
All is a trap, but we do about 5,000 a week at this point. If you want more, I'm sure we could scale horizontally, but that's sort of as it is what our capacity is. But definitely, I mean, that is the whole thing. I mean, you just don't need to do anything. You don't even need to give me your product feed, because I just don't need it. We basically sniff what the images are, parse it, start making them. The only thing we do with people, and you could do this through the dashboard, is what kind of creatives do they like for the buttons here.
Yeah.
That really is the only time. I mean, this is our vanilla kind of default buttons. Obviously, these are not the prettiest. So people have their own designs for the page. We work with them to make sure that's what they like, and that's it.
Wow, that's incredible. So just to understand if I got it completely, if I'm, I don't know, IKEA for instance, so I put this tag on my IKEA website, then you have this mega conversion, and then whatever you create can be used inside my website or beside
Yep.
my website. So I don't need another website for the 3D features, of course.
No, you don't need an app. You don't need a website. You don't need anything. It
I can
works on. Yeah,
integrate it inside my website with all the features you provide. It is the models, the trying
the
your room
model.
feature.
Yeah, yeah. So you could even configure which of these experiences you want to offer. Maybe all three, maybe just the AR, maybe just the viewing room. So all that is configurable from your dashboard.
Wow, that's incredible, I
Yeah,
think.
and then you see it like then if because we have the upfront costs so incredibly low for bigger clients, we don't even just the deal is just drop that, and I would start showing these experiences, and we keep making models, right? And you just ramp up to the tune of, like I said, not 5,000 a week for everybody, but we just ramp up depending on, and you don't have to worry about the churns and the options and the model, because a lot of experiences when you go, let's say you want to look at the rug, really the power of AR is if I could see all the options for that rug, right? Sometimes there's like 100 options, including the size and color variations. We do those, all of them, right? It's because we could automate things that we could do that. And you don't have to worry about what option was added, removed. It's just basically set it and forget it.
Okay, so you're already on the market. If someone watching this video is interested in what you do, can already contact you probably upon finding the contact on your website and asking to convert his or
Yeah,
her store. We add in this from 2D pictures, creating 3D models that can be explored in lots of different ways.
absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, that's what we literally do. There's a form at the bottom of the page, 3D.ai. Go there, drop us a note, and I would personally reply to you. I mean, it's such a joy actually, because people don't know where to start, or they would think. But there's also a lot of noise out there, and I'm guilty of making noise when we started. I mean, that's sort of the nature of, I suppose, startups and entrepreneurships, right? But it took us about a year and a half to get here. But now we could scale.
Yeah, that's what is important. So also now when I hear some customers or in case some VR store or AR store, I can contact you and ask you if this is possible, because until now it's always, hey, you need, I don't know,
Yeah,
50,000
yeah.
just to start, and they're like too much just to experiment with AR. And
I'm telling you that even for the biggest of the clients, is if it's sort of a chicken and egg thing, right? I mean, you go there and say, okay, to get any meaningful, this was sort of the hurdle we still do, right? People have to test it for themselves and really see the lift, because there is real lift here, right? There's real lift in sales. There's also real reduction in returns, which to me is even, like, personally, I find that even more interesting, because we're just messing up with the environment enough, right? So there's real lift in the sales, but also reduction in returns, that just one more sales, the way we price it for most objects through a year pays for itself. So we get about at least 20x ROI so far with the big box stores that we've tested with. So it's, but people have to see it for themselves. And I'm saying, come, we give you, I mean, if you're a biggish client, up to 250 models for free. We'll just set you up, test it, right? No strings attached. You don't have to pay $25,000 for those models to begin with.
that's very interesting. And is there a way that people can try online a demo, for instance, of a conversion or whatever? So if someone is curious about seeing what they're seeing now from your computer, is there a public place yet to try it, or will be there in the future?
there is a public place to try the quick design thing, right? But the model making thing is sort of a messier process still. I mean, you could ask for an account, you push your images, and you get the models back. So let me say the short answer is yes. But to see it in real time, it's less of a. Let me actually show you what it looks a little bit, just a tiny bit under the hood. Now that we're friends, it kind of is. There is a QA process. Let me share again. There is a QA process that is not quite real time, right? So what happens is that these jobs, these feeds turn into jobs, and jobs. Some of these jobs you see like they're in different stages. Just by the way, segmentation in progress. Remember I told you that we make things part by part?
Yes.
That's sort of the state of, that's what's happening to this one, right? But eventually they get, I want to see something that's in a different state. So they kind of get carried through different states, and then eventually they get QA'd by our internal team. And then somebody, when there's something wrong, somebody decides what to do with them. It's either gets reprocessed, but there would be human sort of annotations that helps the machine, or a lot of times it actually goes to the manual process, or it goes to what we call fine tuning, which is a state where we don't throw away the model, but we kind of fix it. So if you have a bunch of models you want to make, you can give us the photos. I'll be more than happy to put this in. It probably takes about a day to return that back to you. So by all means, but what I'm saying, whether there is a place where you could submit a photo and watch it made, it's just slightly more complicated than that, is what I say. And that's the truth of it. Anybody that tells you this is touch-free, it's probably not telling the right thing.
It's said to sell something that is not true.
Okay. I mean, again, I'm guilty more than anybody. When you want to start up, you showed those examples where it really works touch-free, and there's a lot of them. It's just not the truth 100% of the time.
Okay, so just I already with you for a lot of time, and thank you. I want just to some final questions. The first one is, you can stop the screen sharing. So but the final question, the first one is, how do you envision your company to be in 5 years? So you have a lot of work in progress. What's your vision?
Yeah.
Maybe also using the new technologies that are coming in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. See, I want to be the king of content, right? And I understand that. No, so here's the thing. Like I used to say, I want to be the giddy images of digital twins of actual commercial products, right? What do I mean by that is that, like, you look at the Sketchfab and CG Trader and all these big repositories of 3D models, they're amazing, but they're a bag of models that may or may not have an actual counterpart in the real world, right? Whereas, and this thing has never been a need for it until this whole virtual reality or AR or mixed reality became a thing that is viable. The fact that I want to have a truthful representation of an actual commercial product, like that product. I want that chair, not a chair, right? If you want a chair, you find amazing chairs on Sketchfab. But if I want that particular IKEA chair, that's not really easy unless somebody builds that for you. So our whole thing is to start basically building up this catalog of actual commercial products in 3D building that up, and then enable all these other experiences that are emerging, right? So today I looked at what was that app that does you could scan your room with the LiDAR 12 in Polycam or something like that, right? So it's pretty amazing. So you could do this, and it would create a space here. So, but then to make money out of that, you gotta have you gotta plug stuff in that have commercial value in that. And I want us to just be that, right? Be like, if you're a seller that sells, and I tell you about what's beyond furniture, but for now, let's say you sell home goods, right? And there are all these other experiences. There's some apps that let people decorate their rooms as a game. There's kind of Decor Matters is really good. There's a bunch of them. There's all these other places where people collaborate to design for different reasons, but to fuel them, you need actual truthful high quality content and plugins and integrations. So I want to be that. Now we're started to create some of these because there's a gap still. So the quick design or design in 2D that I showed you, we made that, but I don't think that would be the end of it. We'll make some of those experiences, but there are a lot of others that are working on those experiences. So I want to power those, and I want to sit in between those who want to sell their products through those experiences, and also make money for the people who create those experiences. So that's one. So if I become the Getty Images of 3D commercial products, that would be something. But then fashion. I think you and I think we kind of went back and forth on content and context. Where does it matter commercially, right? One is obviously home goods and furniture. I want to buy something, I want to see how it looks inside that home, not a home, not some model home, but my home, the home, right? And obviously, even bigger problem is fashion and apparel, right? I want to wear a dress. I want to see how it looks on me, not on some model, not on some mannequin. I want to know exactly that product, how it looks on me. Now, that's a far, much further away problem, but it's also a much bigger opportunity, I would say, than home goods and furniture. I don't think the tech is there just yet, but there's still amazing progress in how you recreate the 3D model of people's body, the avatars, especially using LiDAR, even with the True Depth and the old iPhone 10 stuff. There's some really good startups that do scan your body in 3D. So that's good. That's basically the equivalent of understanding the context in a room. Now, the context is your body, right? Now, to be able to actually do the fit, not overlay something. Again, there are other startups that would nicely actually put something on you, but it always fits me because that's by design. They don't really have an idea of the fit, right?
Yeah.
But that's also still useful, right? I mean, I think, was it called Figma? No, not Figma. Forma. It's a pretty good company. They would put a dress or a clothing on your body, but it's less about the fit, more about like how it generally looks. But really, the holy grail is and then for that, you do need a truthful 3D model of a piece of clothing and an apparel. And that is something I'm really super excited about. Remember I told you that we make things part by part?
Yes.
That's actually how you build dresses, right? You don't make them out of a piece of cloth. You actually put them together. So I really think that our pipeline could be adapted to do that. But there are others that I mean, you know about Clothes 3D, the 3D clothes. So
no.
Clothing design is still 95% done in 2D, right? I mean, all our kind of sisters and mothers did that type of thing, and my dad did too. But so we've seen like those 2D patterns that you would cut and you make dresses out of it. But Clothes 3D is a really good company out of South Korea that they let you now design dresses in 3D. That means that the 3D model does exist just by the virtue of this, is like the CAD, but for dresses in 3D. Now, manufacturing CAD has moved mostly from 2D to 3D. Still, they use 2D. So there's some CAD meshes there. That's another source of models. But eventually that's sort of to me, also the holy grail, because what if I don't have to order 10 different things and see which one fits and return the rest, which goes to waste, right? Would be disappointed. Because frankly, what if I just stand like here and somebody offers me, just like I was saying, the recommendation, offers me exactly the products that really fit me well, right? That to me will happen because all physically and mathematically, all the is there, right? So it will happen. I don't know. I think 5 to 10 years from now, though.
Wow, so you have a lot to do in the next years. The last question is the one that I always ask is there something else that you want to add to this chat, maybe to the people watching you, something that you have not covered in this long chat together?
No, I just want to appreciate you you listening to me. I think we went back and forth for about 6 months. I think we're finally ready. We have things to talk about publicly. So much appreciated. I appreciate what you do for the community.
And I invite everyone that is watching this video to go looking for 3D.ai. If you're an investor, also look at them, because I think that since now there is the transition probably between 2D and 3D, this is the kind of company to look for, and also the vision that you're having at 3DAI is amazing. So I invite every one of you to go to 3D.ai if there's the right website. And thanks, Nima, for taking part
Thank
of
you
this
very
chat.
much. I mean, really appreciate it.
Have a nice day, everyone. Bye bye.
Cheers.